At some point soon here, I want you to put together a major blast. We talk about this in the 90-day game plan all the time. This is really important. If this is the runway at the airport here in Las Vegas, and on the runway, that's an airplane. Big tail on that airplane. Anybody a pilot here in the room? Pilots? Back there? Hi, pilot. How you doing? All right, you're way back there, so you're going to have to holler these answers. You ready? You and me. You with me? All right, good. If you're loaded up on the airplane and you've got your group back home and you're ready to go, you got everybody in, you're in the pilot's seat. They say, okay, it's ready to go. But I need to be reasonable. I've got a job, I've got responsibilities, got to go all that stuff. I got kids. I got to, make sure I take care of me. And I put myself, I'm in the plane. I joined. I bought the pack. I'm on auto ship. And I put it to 30% throttle. How am I going to do? Am I going to get off the ground? I'm not going to get off the ground. 30%'s a lot. It's probably more than I'm giving my real job. True story. Okay, forget that 30%. All right, I'll give it 50%. Am I going to get off the ground? I'm not. Well, you're not being nice. Nice has nothing to do with it. It's physics. I'm going to give it 70%. Am I getting off the ground? I don't know if network marketing's for me, I guess. Are you going to, will you move down the runway? Okay, so you're moving, you see trees moving. Hey, we're moving. Taking the product, doing the stuff. But you don't get off the ground. You don't get any check. You don't get any results. You're not building any momentum. What do you have to do to get off the ground, sir? 100%. Man. Plus thrusters. 100% is 100%, right? So to get to 100%, it takes 100% to get off the ground. Now, if I don't go to 100%, and let's say that there's a big fence at the end of the runway. If I don't do 100% at some point, even for a little bit, what do I have to look forward to? The fence. You're either going to put the brakes on and walk out of that airplane, or you're just going to crash. Take everybody with you in a fireball. Then you'll tell everybody it wasn't pilot error. Somebody else did it. It was a mechanical problem. The opportunity had a flaw. It wasn't the pilot. So, to get off the ground, you have to give it 100% to get off the ground. Now, it works so good, we're off the ground, 100%, we're going up. This is exciting. Do we keep it at 100%? You got to pull it back, don't you? You can't go to 100% because what will happen? You run out of fuel, you burn out the engines. So, but you do, if you want to really get to a new altitude, how many people in this room want to get to a new altitude? All of you? You know what it's going to take? It's going to take one burst. Now, you don't have to stay there for forever. After you go 100%, how much power do you need to just maintain? The minimum power to maintain? 65%. Give them a round of applause. Tell them thanks. So you can level off at 65%, no problem, and you can cruise for a long time. Occasionally come to an event like this and refuel. And then keep going, and then refuel, and then keep going. But if you want to get off the ground, it's going to take a burst. And now, you heard about Holton's burst of 2 weeks? That crazy, insane burst of energy with belief and commitment and unreasonable vision? 2 weeks. That's what he did, turbo thrusters to get to an altitude. We talk about the 90-day game plan of the biggest thing that I want you to commit to, everybody in this room. You want to change your life? Here's what I'm going to encourage you to do. Recruit 20 new people, frontline, in 30 days. In a 30-day period of time. You might want to start now, you might want to start whenever. I don't care when you start. But pick a 30-day period of time and bring them in. Put together a game plan to bring them in. Okay? Because if you recruit 20, now you're at altitude, you can cruise, you can do all kinds of stuff. I want to challenge every single person here, every person watching on the live stream, every person that you're going to talk to when you get back home, challenge them to recruit 20 in a short period of time. You're like, I've never recruited 20 and I've been involved for 3 years. So? Are you tired of the runway? You're just going in circles on the runway. Do you want to get to another altitude? If you do, guess what the price of entry is? All out, 100%, go bring in 20 people. Now, let me tell you why 20, and then I'll show you how 20. I love little key concepts that have served me for my whole career. When I find something magical, it changes everything. If you'll bring in 20 in a relatively short period of time, 30, 60 days, somewhere in that time frame, here's what will happen. Out of those 20, approximately 12 will do something. They'll order the product, they might get a customer, they might get a distributor. 8 of them will disappear. We don't know where they go. They're abducted by aliens, they've been put into the witness protection program, they're just gone, we don't know. We thought they were going to do it for sure, they told us for sure they were going to do it. The ones that you thought were really going to do it, they disappear, we don't know why. 12 do something. Within about 90 days, you're going to have about 8 that you think are leaders. 8 that you think are going to be 8 new lines for you. This is within 90 days. Within 12 months, you'll have about 4 solid lines. And one of the 4 will be doing, 70% or so of the total volume of those 4. One of the 4 will just take off. And if you mature at 3 to 5 years, you're going to find that you have 2 strong leaders that are generating most of the business in your organization from that blast. Okay? You know how I know this is true? Because I've talked to more top earners than you have. I've witnessed it myself. I've done it myself. And this is just the way it is. Period. So, give me, Garrett. Last time you really launched something, how many people did you recruit in your first 30, 60 days? 60 people. Wow. That was a big one. Okay, so, all right, so 60 people in a short period of time. Now, he's a professional. He's been in the profession a long time. How many? Almost 25 years. So he's been around a long time. He brought in 3 times this number. How many of those 60 did something? About 30, 35. Within 3 months of those 60, how many did you have that you thought you had good lines? About 8. So even if you started with 60, you went down to 8. After 12 months, how many good lines did you have? After 12 months? About 6. Okay, out of 60. Or 4 out of 20. 6 out of 60. And how long has this been? 4th year. So now 4 years later, out of those original 60, how many are hitting it? 4 or 5? Which one? 4.5? 4 rock star lines. 4 out of 60. And what percentage of your income is generated from those 4? 90%. So, how much have you earned in the last 4 years, can I ask? About $2 million. So how long did it take to bring in those 60? 60 days, 60 people in 60 days. 90 days? All right, fine. 90 days to 2 million plus. We're going to take 10% off of the 2 million, so we're at 1.8 million. So in reality, you got paid, take 1.8 million divided by 60, how much? Huh? 30,000? Or 300? No, it's 30,000. $30,000. He got paid $30,000 per recruit in his first 60 days. $30,000 per recruit. Pretty good. You learned it from a long time ago from me? Here's what I will tell you, and I've just learned it from observation. If you got paid $30,000 a recruit starting tomorrow in your company, how many people would you recruit in the next 60 days? If you got paid $30,000 a recruit between now and January 1st, for those of you thinking, I'm really going to start at January 1st, and you only got paid 30 grand for each one between now and January 1, how many would you bring in? A lot. Because as soon as you got that first 30,000 in cash, you signed up one, I got to go get another one. Quick. We can't sleep too long. You got to get it quick. So the majority of the work was done. It was over. And then it's just maintenance, hanging out, 65%, training, supporting, taking care of people, making it happen. Give me another $1 million earner. Another $1 million earner here in the room. Come on. Brian, Brian Carruthers, when you launched, your 14 years ago, was it? 15 years ago, you launched in your first 30, 60, 90 days. How many people did you recruit? 16 and 30 days. How much? 16 and 30 days. Now, how much have you earned since then in total? 15 million. Of those 16, how many did something? About half. Within 90 days, how many did you have that were building? Still about half? About eight or so? After a year, how many of those original 16 were strong lines? 6? Was one of those 6 the majority of the growth, or 1 or 2? One was about 40%, the rest were kind of split up. 5 years later, of those 6, how many did you have that were building strong? 5. So you did good. 15 years later, how many would you consider strong?
Not necessarily the same leaders, same legs of rockets, but
Different leaders and different legs, but those legs that originated from that, how many? 5? All right, 5. So he went from 16 to 5, but he's earned how many millions? 15 million. How much of your income in total of that 15 million can you point back to the first 90 days? So 60%, 70%? Okay, so let's say it's 70%. Take 30% off of 15 million. What do you have? A little over 10? Yeah, $10.5 million. He got paid $10.5 million for recruiting 16 people. $800,000 per recruit. $800,000 per recruit. The power of condensed effort and energy. Another $1 million earner. Anybody? Quickly. Jim Faubert, your last launch. How many people did you recruit in your first 30, 60 days? 20 in 7 weeks. How many of the 20 did something? No, but how many of the 20 that you brought in did something? They recruited somebody, they sold something? All of them did a little something? All right. After 90 days, how many of them were building? Half. After a year, how many of them were building? 2. How much have you earned in the last 4 years? 2 million? Out of those 20 that you recruited, what percentage of your income came from that 20? 50%. So $1 million you got paid for bringing in 20 people to find 2. $1 million. The other $1 million were people you brought in since then. You did another 90 day. How many did you bring in the other 90 day? 20. And how many legs did you end up with out of that? 2. So that's the other $1 million. So you did one 90-day burst and it turned into $1 million in income. He did another 90-day burst, turned into another $1 million in income. He got 2 out of each. Now, question for you, why do I say 20? If these numbers hold true, and I promise you they do, if they hold true, what happens when you bring in 6 people? You end up with a fraction of a person. If you want the law of numbers to work for you, you have to pick a time and bring in 20. Pick a time and face your fears. Pick a time and do what it takes, go crazy to bring in 20 people, at least in that neighborhood of 20. If you ask around all the top $1 million earners, they're going to tell you the same. Now you want to know how to bring in 20? It's just math. It's just math. In your opportunity, if you do a presentation and somebody sees your opportunity, you do a full presentation to them, and you do it to 10 different people, how many of those 10 are going to join your business? On average? 3, 1, 2, 3. Can we average 2? Can we just use it as an example? As an average? I promise you, if you do 1 a week for the next 10 weeks, you might have 1 or 2. If you do 10 in this week, you're going to have 3 or 4 or 5. If you condense the time and the energy and the effort, you're going to get a higher number because you're going to get better at it. Your axe is going to be sharp. You're not going to be rusty at all. You're going to be in a groove. Promise. Okay? So let's just use 2. To get 20, we need 2 out of 10. So if that's true, how many presentations do we need to do in order to be able to recruit 20? 100. We need to do 100 presentations. And that's true again if you condense it because, Jim, how many people did you present the opportunity to get your first 20? Real life. Full presentation. Not just an invitation, a presentation. Was it more than 100 to get 20? A full presentation or just an invitation? I'll bet you tell me if I'm wrong or right, I'll bet you it was around 50, maybe 40 that you did a full presentation to. You invited way more to take a look, but they didn't see the whole thing. Because it's smaller, I promise you. We'll use the 100 to get there, to take away all the excuses, but it's not 100. You didn't talk to 300 people to get your 60.
No, I did 1 game and 100 presentations in 100 days.
You did 100 presentations in 100 days and he got 60. That was his game plan. Okay? So 100 presentations is going to get you there. In order to do that, how many appointments do you need to schedule? Understanding that some people aren't going to show up. They're going to say yes. You know, they said yes. How many people you need to talk to and get the appointment scheduled?
30, 50.
Huh? 150? Say 50 people didn't, miss the coffee shop meeting or whatever. So let's say it's 150. How many calls and invitations do you need to make in order to get 150 scheduled? 300, 400? Let's say 300. 300 people. Okay? So, if you just do the math, and you're willing to dial until you talk to and invite professionally 300 people to schedule 150 appointments, to do 100 presentations, and to sponsor 20 people, you'll make it happen. Garrett's whole strategy was one presentation a day on average for 100 straight days. Mm-hmm. An evening presentation, then presentations all day building towards that. But one presentation a day for 100 days. So if you want to here's what I will tell you. If you'll do this in 30 days or 60 days, these numbers change dramatically. You'll end up with about 4 out of 10, which means you only need to do, what, 50 presentations? Which means you only have to have about 75 appointments, which means you only need to actually talk to and invite about 150 people. That's the truth, if you'll condense it. If you'll condense it. So if you know why to bring in 20, the how should take care of itself, but this will give you a little framework. This will give you a little concept, a little idea. Does everybody in this room have a reason, an excuse why it's going to be hard to bring in 20 people? Every single one of you do. And if you'll choose to ignore that reason, if you'll choose to not accept that limiting belief, if you'll choose not to buy that story, then you can create a better story. My friend Ray Higdon, who's here this weekend, he was financially destroyed and he decided to get 20 no's a day for 6 months. He set out every morning with the purpose of getting 20 people a day to tell him no. And he went from financial disaster to $40,000 a month in 6 months with that one concept. 20 no's a day, up to $40,000 a month in 6 months. In a pretty challenging, heavy type of a company, you know what I mean? It wasn't, fast growth company, it was a residual longer term company. So if you know why, the why is this. The how is just math plus passion. Passion, belief, action. Just decide to make it happen.